Hey everyone, it's Mystics here and welcome back to another Monster Hunter video. This time, as you've probably already seen from the video title, we're going to be going through some bow builds today. So I've seen a fair few build videos myself, but what I've noticed is that a lot of them seem to focus very heavily on damage and how to maximize your DPS. But that's not what the builds in this video is going to be about. What I want to focus on is how to slot in more comfort skills while still having a decent amount of damage. So while damage is still important in these upcoming builds, it's not going to be our only priority. We are going for fairly equal parts comfort and DPS. So just something to note before we get into the builds themselves, they are targeted at hunters who have reached at least Master Rank 24. So for those of you who haven't gotten there yet, I suggest you search up some bow progression builds. I'll leave one that I think is a great one down in the description below, or you can just do some Google searching like Monster Hunter World Iceborne bow progression builds. Another thing to note is that none of the weapons displayed in the following builds have been augmented in any way, so the numbers like your damage, affinity and all that stuff are just going to be coming from the base weapon. And these builds are not meant to tell you what to use or how you should play the game. This is a video game, alright? You're meant to have fun with it, so play it however you like, and you're free to change up or just fully disregard any of the builds shown if you neither agree nor like the builds I'm about to show you. So with all that said, let's go ahead and jump over into our first build. Now for this build here, it's made without any event gear, so you just have to hunt the monsters that are constantly available. I know the game is already completed, so the event quests are mostly no longer going around in a schedule, but you know, with the exception of KT and Safi and the seasonal events. So I decided to make this build that doesn't feature any event materials or equipment. So in this build, it is interchangeable between all 5 elements. We have over here the Fulgur Anjanath Helmet Beta, Biotodus Chestpiece Beta, Kyostra Arms Beta, Namiel Waist Beta, Yen Garuga Greaves Beta, and Frost Charm 4. With this, you'll get Ice Attack 6, Critical Eye 5, Weakness Exploit 3, Constitution 3, Stamina Surge 2, Heat Guard, which is a byproduct of the Kyostra armor piece, Bow Charge Plus, and Crit Boost 1. As you can see, I've left out most of the level 4 slots with the exception of an Expert 4 Jewel, because the story should have already given one to you. But for the rest, it's really up to what you have on hand. As for why I've chosen the skills, let's go over them one by one. So first of all, Ice Attack 6 and Critical Eye 5. So because bow is an elemental damage focused weapon, and since we don't have critical element in this set, I prioritized Ice Attack over Critical Eye. But you can always swap out the 2 Frost Jewels for Expert Jewels if you want, if affinity is more of your priority. Then on to Weakness Exploit 3, I will shorten this to Wax so that, you know, it's not such a mouthful. For Wax, it is a standard skill to have for a big boost to your affinity, and it's present in just about every single build out there that wants affinity. So you know, it's there, and if you couldn't care less about affinity, swap it out with whatever you want. Constitution 3 and Stamina Surge 2. I will shorten these two to Cons and Stam Surge, or just Surge, to simplify things and make it easier to say. For this combination, it is what I personally like and strive for in every single one of my bow builds. If you don't know, bow is one of, if not the most stamina hungry out of all the 14 weapons. So stamina reduction and recovery is essential to the bow. There is a cap for stamina reduction at 50% though, so with cons 3, all you have to do is eat for feline black belt at the canteen or drink up a dash juice to get very close to that 50% cap. Stam Surge on the other hand aids with your stamina recovery, and I find that level 2 is a good sweet spot for it. You can go to level 3 if you want, but at that point, at least I personally feel it's overkill, because you can easily recover a huge chunk of stamina just by starting your combo with a quick shot, or simply run around for a second or two to reposition yourself, and then you'll have full stamina again before you even know it. Then next will be Bow Charge Plus. This is basically a mandatory skill for bows. It gives you 1 extra charge to your bow shot, so you do even more damage. Always try to have Bow Charge Plus in your builds. Now Critical Boost 1. This is where it differs from the DPS builds. Most people will try to max this skill out, but I personally find level 1 to be enough. It's definitely not optimal by any means in terms of DPS, but each level to this skill only gives you an additional 5% to your raw damage on your crits, whereas at level 1 it gives you a whole 30%. And you know, bow, as you probably already know, it is a elemental damage focused weapon. So for me, having at least level 1 in this skill is good enough. I mean, you can always swap out the 2 physic jewels present in this set to max this skill out, but like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we are aiming for equal parts comfort and DPS in these builds. So for the bow itself, I would suggest the following ones for each of the 5 elements. So for ice, like you have seen here, I would suggest the Mist Glacier. It is a solid choice for the ice bow, and it comes from the Legiana tree. For fire, either Glavenus, Anjanath, or Azuri Rathalos bow. All of them are viable, but I prefer Glavenus for its neutral affinity and the extra slots that we can have. For thunder, the Tobi Kadachi bow is basically the only one to go for. It's not great by any means, but at least it's got a jewel slot, so a little more wiggle room for extra skills. And then for water, I would suggest the Laguna Shot 2 from the Coral Puke tree. And finally for dragon, I would suggest the Dragon Seal Elbow 2 from the Bone tree. So as you can see, the different weapons all have different amounts of jewel slots, so feel free to make use of them to further optimize the sets as you see fit. So moving on, if you have no issues with event equipment and materials, especially for those of you who have grinded for the Kia bows, I have 2 slightly different builds for you. Like before, I have left out the level 4 slots. So for these builds, we have either Kaltoroth or Falgor Anjanath Helm Beta, Safi's Chest and Arms Beta, Nemiel's Waist Beta, Yen Garuga Greaves Beta, and Frostcharm 4. Also like before, these 2 sets are interchangeable between all 5 elements. Now, both sets are viable. The Kaltoroth Helm just has better slots, so if you have better level 4 jewels, I would suggest go with the KT variation of this set. Or if you don't have like that great of level 4 jewels, Falgor Anjanath variation would probably be better. So with these sets, we have Critical Element, Critical Eye level 4 or 5 depending on which variation you're using, Ice Attack 6, Wax 3, Blight Resistance 2, Cons 2 or 3, again depending on which variation you're using. Free meal, critical boost 1, stamina surge 1 or 2, and bow charge plus. So let's go over the skill choices for this build. So first of all, ice attack 6 and critical eye 4 or 5. Now I know I mentioned in the previous build that I prioritize attack over, the ice attack over critical eye, because of the lack of critical element. But after trying out like maxing either ice attack or critical eye, having max ice attack actually gives us better EFE. So I decided to keep it that way. Now if you don't know what EFE is, Jinjings and Tuna have made a video, I think quite a while ago, explaining it in depth as to what EFE means. So I'll link that in the description. But to simplify, more EFE equals more elemental damage. Of course, you can still decide to max out Crit Eye instead to get 100% affinity, or even just swap one of those out to max out your Blight resistance. It is completely up to you. Wax, Crit Boost and Bow Charge Plus, the reasoning is the same as before, so I'm gonna skip over them for this build and probably the future builds as well. For cons and stamina surge, also same as before, except that you will end up losing 1 level in both skills if you use the KT Helm version. So unless you have level 4 jewels that give you a level in both of those skills, it's probably not as worth it. Now Blight resistance. This one is just a overall useful skill and it comes with the Safi pieces. All blights basically last for a shorter period of time now, so even the annoying ones like your Ice Blight and Water Blight won't hinder you for as long if you don't want to eat now berries. As for free meal, this comes with the KT Helm set, so just like Blight resistance, it is just overall useful and comfy. Basically what it does is that it gives you a 25% chance to not consume your food, not your canteen food, but your food items that exist within your pouch. And this is especially handy when it procs when you eat like max potions, or drink your mega potions, or even eating your might seeds and adamant seeds, because that essentially gives you extra heals and buffs. Okay, so then maybe some of you guys are really lucky or have already grinded for a lot of decorations, or maybe you are simply like the late to end game players who want to try getting into bowls. These following sets are how I will optimize using all the deco slots available. I go with the KT Helm version of the previously shown set because it has better slots. So this is what I managed to come up with. With this set, you get Crit Element, Crit Eye 7, Ice Attack 6, Blight Resistance 3, Cons 3, Wax 3, Health Boost 3, Stam Surge 2, Evade Window 2, Free Meal, Crit Boost 1, and Bow Charge Plus. Let's go over the skill choices for this one then. Now Ice Attack, Crit Eye and Blight Resistance, same reasoning as all the previous set, except that this time I get to max out on both elemental damage and affinity and Blight Resistance. So with Blight Resistance 3, you are fully immune to all blights, so your now berries are completely obsolete in this set. Now Health Boost 3, this is a very important skill for comfort. Basically increases your max HP, like the skill name says. Combined with the canteen food, you get to reach the maximum amount of HP at 200. So most attacks should stop one-shotting you. As for Evade Window, this is a skill that I personally find very comfortable to be used alongside bows because of how much you move around and also how your dashes can be combined into your combos. Evade Window helps to extend the number of iframes you have while dodging, but at level 2 it's not gonna make too much of a difference honestly. So if you instead have a physique 4 duo, you can opt for that to max out constitution and cap your stamina reduction without, the need to eat for anything. Or, replace that with anything else that you feel would be more useful. Now, alternatively, you could also replace all 3 levels of health boost with evade window to max that out instead. Evade window 5 is super comfy and definitely very noticeable when you try to dodge out of the way of an incoming attack. As for why I said to replace all 3 levels of health boost instead of maybe just 1 or 2, I personally think that you should either go for max health boost or simply none at all. Level 1 and 2 don't really make a noticeable difference, and the attacks that usually one-shot you will still one-shot you with or without the boost, because bow in general is just quite squishy. And besides that, learning how to evade is just much better than straight up tanking the hit anyway, and evade window will definitely help aid you into timing your dodges better. And then once you get comfortable with dodging, then you can safely slowly drop the evade window skill level to tighten up the window, and eventually you'll be able to slot health boost 3 in again anyway, and at that point you'll be much better at timing your dodges as well. So it's a win-win. Now, while this entire set is fully interchangeable between all 5 elements, I do have some slight variations for the thunder and dragon bows. If you're lazy or don't want to spend too much effort on a weapon that isn't going to be something you play with a lot, then feel free to just copy and paste the set that I showed you before. But for those of you who are interested, stick around. Now let's start off with the thunder variation first. The equipment is generally the same, except that I swapped the arms out for the Kirin arms beta and the charm for a shock charm, obviously because we're using a thunderbolt. So because the arms already give us 3 levels of thunder attack, your shock charm only needs to be at level 3, because these 2 things combined will already give us all 6 levels to thunder attack. So this frees the slots up for other comfy skills. So with this set, you'll get critical element, crit eye 7, thunder attack 6, evade window 5, cons 3, health boost 3, wax 3, blight resistance 2, stem surge 2, free meal, crit boost 1, and bow charge plus. So as you can see, thanks to this slight alteration, we get to fit both evade window 5 and health boost 3 in exchange for just 1 level of blight resistance that was in the previous set. So that makes this build really comfy if you want to use it as practice against thunder weak monsters. Now as for dragon, on the other hand, more things change compared to the thunder variation. So for this set, instead of using the Kia Decay bow, I decided to go with the Elytrion bow and swap the legs out for Elytrion Greaves Alpha, not Beta, and the charm for Master's Charm 4. With this set, you get crit eye 7, dragon attack 6, evade window 5, blight resistance 3, cons 3, defense boost 3, which is a byproduct of the Greaves, health boost 3, wax 3, stem surge 2, free meal, crit boost 1, and bow charge plus. So like the thunder variation, we get to once again fit both evade window 5 and health boost 3, except that this time we get to keep blight resistance 3 and get a little bit of defense boost. Now for the charm, I decided to go with the Master's Charm instead of the Dragon Attack Charm, because the Greaves itself already gives us 4 levels of Dragon Attack. So all you really need is just 2 more levels of Dragon Attack in your jewel slots anyway. So I figured might as well put in the Master's Charm because I think it's just easier to make. And then also something else that you're probably wondering, why Elytrion Bow instead of Kia Decay? Now there are two main reasons for this one. For one, it's that the elemental damage with Elytrion's bow is still much higher than that of Kia Decay's, even with crit element considered. Second, Elytrion's bow also has much better slots for us to utilize with the 2 level 2 slots, meaning we have more wiggle room to slot in more comfort skills, which is why we're able to have so many skills all maxed out. Now perhaps for some of you, you might not be that lucky with the Kia bows, because it's purely RNG, and instead only have the Safi Bow. This next set is something that you can try out as well. Of course, the Safi Bow is going to be awakened for all element, so one element level 6 and the other 4 will be element level 5. And with this set, it's basically the same thing with some of the jewels just swapped out here and there. And with this you get critical eye 7, ice attack 6, constitution 5, evade window 5, blood resistance 3, wax 3, stamina surge 2, free meal 1, crit boost 1, and bow charge plus. So as you can see, unfortunately we are not able to fit in vitality or health boost for this set, but you do instead get the constitution maxed out, so meaning you don't have to eat for feline black belt or even eat a dash juice because your stamina reduction has already been capped. So with this build, thanks to constitution 5, you're really just free to dash around and practice your evasion while you're trying to attack the monsters. And then you also still have the benefit of the evade window increasing your number of iframes, and also blight resistance and free meal keeping you very comfy. So that's all the builds and variations that I have prepared for this video. Hopefully these builds help you out if you've been struggling with certain monsters, or that it's given you some sort of inspiration to create different builds for a more comfortable playstyle that suits you specifically. Like I said before, these builds are not a strict guide on what skills you should have or how you should play the game and whatnot. Just enjoy the game in any way that you find to be fun, and that is the way it should always be with video games. I'm planning on doing one more video like this where I show the build that I currently use post Fatalis. Let me know if you want to see more of these videos. Perhaps, comfy builds for the other weapons that I use, like Charge Blade and Longsword maybe? But this will be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again whenever my next video is out. So like always, happy hunting, hunters.